morning and welcome to Newsround. I'm Hayley and here's your top stories for the day. We meet the gymnastics star who made history at the World Championships. And we find out who's been crowned Wildlife Photographer of the Year. This is Newsround. First up, our main story today. Fighting has continued overnight in the Middle East, with Israel saying its military is now moving towards a full-scale invasion against Gaza in response to the attacks that took place over the weekend. We wanted to give you a picture of what life is like right now for children living in Israel and in Gaza, and explain what Gaza is. So Jenny's got this one.
This part of the world has seen a lot of fighting over the years. But what has happened over the last few days has been the worst that has been seen for a long time. On Saturday, the Palestinian militant group called Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel from an area called Gaza. Rockets were fired and Hamas fighters broke into Israel. Civilians, as well as soldiers, were deliberately attacked by Hamas. Many people were killed. For children, it has been a terrifying time. Although the attacks from Hamas fighters have largely been stopped, rockets are still being fired into Israel. Israel responded by launching air attacks into Gaza, and Israeli troops are preparing to go into the area. But what is Gaza? Well, it's a tiny strip of land in between Israel and Egypt. Nearly everyone who lives there is Palestinian, and it is controlled by Hamas. It is mostly one big city with tall buildings packed closely together. The population is very young. Almost half of the people living in Gaza are children. You can see children everywhere on the streets. Many of them cannot go to school. Israel controls what goes in and out. They have now cut off water, electricity, and food supplies. Many charities have warned that Palestinian civilians will suffer as a result of blocking supplies. Israel says that Hamas is to blame for the suffering of Palestinians through the brutal actions of the militant group. Charities and international organisations like the United Nations have called for children to be protected, whether they are Palestinian or Israeli.
And you can find out more about Israel, Gaza and what's happening there over on the Newsround website. And if anything you see in the news upsets you, then we've got help and advice there too. Now, moving on, and today is the International Day of the Girl, where organisations and charities highlight issues that are affecting young women today. Well, this year they're looking at how climate change can affect girls all over the world. One woman who's fighting for women's rights is Helen Pankhurst. She is the great-granddaughter of the famous Emmeline Pankhurst, who fought for women's rights over 100 years ago. So she's been to a school in London to help kids see how climate change can be an issue for girls.
Hi Newsround, welcome to our school.
Today we are meeting the great-granddaughter of one of the most important people of the 20th century.
Emmeline Pankhurst was key to women being allowed to vote, and lots of people say that she paved the way for the future of women's rights.
Her relative, Helen Pankhurst, is coming to talk to us today, so let's go and meet her.
On the day, the International Day of the Girl, we need to think about whether girls' rights are still an issue. 100 years ago, that Pankhurst surname was associated with women's rights. That was the important fight. Now, the fight is around climate change.
Why are you focusing on climate change?
Because today, on International Day of the Girl, we are focusing on the most important issue that's affecting women and girls. So if you think about many places in the world, their ability to continue going to school might be affected by climate change.
What can we do to help climate change locally?
That every single person, by, for example, picking up a bit of litter and starting to make small changes, can spark changes elsewhere.
What do you think world leaders should do about it?
financing for climate change and addressing climate change is absolutely critical. Understanding that women and girls and their experiences needs to be brought to the centre of any decision is another one. And then fossil fuels. Thank you so much for your brilliant questions, and I hope those people who will be listening to you will also be inspired.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, guys. Next up, gymnast Jake Jarman made history in the World Championships when he brought home a gold medal for Great Britain in the vault. Well, fresh from the tournament, he popped in to chat to Jenny and answer some of the great questions that you sent in.
What about that? That was phenomenal! A medal is on here for Great Britain.
What an achievement, Jake. How do you feel?
I'm still quite buzzed. To be honest, I can't believe I'm walking away from this World Championships as a world champion.
Well, we've had loads of viewers writing in to ask you questions. Leopard, cat, dog, fox wants to know, what inspired you to be a gymnast?
I'd say, you know, what got me into gymnastics was when I was at a town park when I was young, and I was spotted by a local gymnastics coach, and they said, "Oh, you're really good at the monkey bars. You should trial out at gymnastics club," and it just went from there.
Well, Asia Class wants to know, what is it like when you're tumbling through the air? How does it feel?
It's basically like flying. There's a point where you're at the absolute height of a somersault, right before you start to come back down, and there's a brief moment where you're a bit weightless, so it feels like you're flying.
And Talking Apple wants to know, what's the pressure like and how do you deal with it? That's a good question.
Yeah, so the pressure at world stage is immense, you know, and the way that I deal with it is by visualizing myself doing well. Before I present, I just tell myself that you can do it, you've got this, it's just like normal, just have fun.
And what's your advice for anyone watching that wants to do what you've done?
If you have a dream and you're really passionate about it, go for it. You know, the journey's not always easy, but if you have a love for something, then you should always do it.
Congratulations again. We're so excited for you. Can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. That is amazing news. Now, before we go, we've got a special treat for you. Take a look at these incredible photos. They're from the Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition. There were thousands of entries, but it was this mysterious image of a horseshoe crab that earned Laurent Bellester from France the title this year. He also won the competition in 2021. Well done, Laurent. Now, that's all from me for now, but you can find plenty more on the Newsround website. Check out this week's Your Planet with the latest news on the environment. See ya!